In this video, I want to talk about my recent experience in the National in Kerlouan in France. I learnt an awful lot of different things and observed a number of different things. And I thought I'd take 5 minutes just to run through some of my thoughts of exactly what I experienced, exactly what I saw, exactly what I witnessed, and how it can improve my game, but also as a petanque coach, how it might improve your game. So running through them in no particular order, the very first one that really stuck out for me was the poker face. The poker face, it was quite remarkable to witness some of the very, very best players in the game and to be literally meters away from them and to see that their expression just didn't change whatsoever. And it was remarkable because whether they threw a bad ball or whether they threw a good ball, they just had this same expression. It was almost like, I'm not bothered. I threw a bad ball. I missed. Bring it on. What am I bothered about? And that was, for me, quite a remarkable thing to witness because Julien Lamour, Damien Hero, they were particularly good at this. They maintained the same posture. They maintained the same intensity, whether it was an easy shot or a hard shot, whether they hit or whether they missed. So that's number one. The second one, which isn't necessarily that greater thing, was preparation. And here's an interesting one. For me, and for an awful lot of my friends and people that I play with, we prepare for petanque in different ways. We may sit down, have a nice meal, enjoy a few drinks, a couple of glasses of wine, whatever the case may be. But the problem is that leads to a very poor night's sleep. Eating late, as often happens in France, also leads to poor sleep. A little bit too much alcohol maybe leads to, again, poor sleep. And so what that transpires in is not necessarily the best play on the day. So preparation, if you're going to be professional, if you're going to want to carry through and bring the best game that you can actually bring in a big national, you've got to prepare like an athlete. You've got to be ready. You've got to have your mind in the right place that you're going to bring your absolute best game and you're going to deliver. The next one, this is an interesting one because I saw a huge amount of coche shots. Now, the cochonnet shots didn't matter if it was the first end, if it was the final end, if the team was in trouble, if they were going to get points by hitting the cochonnet. They just kept shooting the cochonnet to save the games, whatever it was. I witnessed Dylan Rocher shooting plenty of cochonnets, and this weekend just gone, he shot 7 cochonnets on the trot in a game, including the very, very first end. Now, that leads me on to the next one, which is shooters. Shooters versus pointers. Now, obviously, that is a little bit different, a little bit controversial. There's a huge amount of shooters in France. Everybody wants to shoot. It's the macho thing. It's the thing where it often gets the most applause. It gets the most coverage. A lot of my short videos have been the style of the shooters. But interestingly, some of my other shorts, did one, for example, with Gregory Briassol recently, his pointing style, which is an absolute delight to watch. Over 100,000 views in 48 hours. That shows that people are really interested in the pointing. The interesting thing here is a lot of people, Franck Polo, various others, are saying that the game is changing because the pointing ability is slightly being lost because it's all being dominated by shooters. One of the interesting things that I witnessed when I was there in Kerlouan is that whilst the shooters are great and the players in France are incredible and they just bang, 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 they do miss. They're not machines. It is a funny little saying, le machine arrive, but the machines do miss. And that means that if you are quiet enough, humble enough, patient enough, and you can keep pointing, you can keep taking those shooters out, eventually the game turns. And that makes it a really, really interesting individual style of play. Next one. This was great. To take your chance. Now, what does take your chance mean? I saw teams that might be not regarded as the greatest players, teams where you would think they wouldn't beat some of the top players. They took their chance. They said, here I am on the show terrains. I've been playing this game all my life. I'm going to step up and I'm going to take you down. And they had this inner belief in themselves that they were going to do it. And it wasn't expressed and it wasn't talked about afterwards, but you could see it in their demeanor. It's like, here I am against what is essentially the best player in the world in a couple of different instances. And they were like, I'm going to take you down. So if you get your chance, don't be afraid. Make sure that you go for the shots. Make sure that you adapt your game, that you raise your game to do that. Now, here's the next one. It's anxiety versus excitement. Now, what does that mean? Well, here's the interesting thing with anxiety and excitement is it does the same thing in the body. Anxiety, excitement. It raises the same hormones. It sends the same chemicals through the body. It plays the same things in the mind. So these people who were taking their chances, they had very much realized that, yes, I might be feeling a little bit anxious. Yes, I might be a little bit worried. What if I miss? What if I look silly in front of all these people that are watching? But I think in my brain, they channeled that and they said, this is my chance. I'm going to take it. I am going to push through these chemicals that are coursing through my body. Another really interesting one. I've talked about this many, many times. And this was very, very relevant in Kerlouan. Landing spot. Hervé Bavazzano talked about it in his interview. I've talked about it in many, many coaching videos that I've done. It was so obvious in Kerlouan because Kerlouan was a really, really tough terrain to point on. If you knew and you could hit your landing spot, it's not just picking a landing spot, throwing your same ball, and it's the same ball every single time. No, what they did was they would pick a particular spot. So let's say, for example, it was here. And then within that little circle was this golden area. And that was the area they had to hit. And what they did was they adapted their shot. So whether it was a lob, whether it was a crouch, whatever it was, a demi-lob, it hit that spot with amazing regularity. And the other interesting thing with the particular landing spot and with the teams, they weren't discussing what to do. They weren't standing down at the end going, throw it on this line, it comes in on this side. No. There was none of that you get an awful lot in the UK, where people are passing secrets almost to the other team, telling them how to play as well. No, the teams would just walk up, they'd look at the situation, they'd look at the circle, they'd look at the cochonnet, they'd look at the landing spot, there'd be a little discussion, all very quiet, all very reserved. Then the pointer would go back, or the milieu, whoever it was, to play their shot, and they'd be hitting that landing spot. But the other interesting thing, they were always filling it in, making sure, tapping it down as you can do, to make sure that the next ball that was played, if the result of that particular landing spot was good, they would do it again and again. And then the other team either had to choose, do they go for the same landing spot, or do they have their own interesting little landing spot? It was a very, very structured way of playing. This was one of my favorites, this particular one, which is community. Now, you had close to, I think it was about 3,500 players, all different teams. You had mixed competition, you had a ladies competition, you had men's competition, you had 512 triples all coming together, all eating merguez, saucisson, steak, frites, drinking beer, drinking coffee, drinking water, and having picnics and chatting, and teams mixing and mingling, and friends, and lots of kisses and hugs, and how are you, and I haven't seen you for so long. And it was an absolute delight to be in this community of people with a passion for petanque, but also their passion and their conviviality for life. Because petanque, it's a silly little game, but it's also it's so ingrained in French life, and it's just delightful. When you go to competitions like Kerlouan, It was absolutely fantastic. And this doesn't just happen in Kerlouan. It also happens any other town, any other national, any regional competition. Everybody gets together, everybody has food. It's a 2-hour lunch break. It's an opportunity for everyone to mix and mingle, enjoy, to talk rubbish, have a little bit of a laugh and a joke, and it was just remarkable. So, one very important thing was headspace. Now, headspace and relaxation. Now, what do I mean by that? Obviously, I'm putting a lot of words up here. So, Dylan Rocher, Robin O, a couple of the others that I was witnessing and that I was filming, when they were in the middle of the game, they weren't doing what everyone does, and that's look at the ball that's about to be shot. No, they were off and looking around and going, oh, nice car over there, and yeah, you know, she's an attractive girl, and there's sausages being cooked, and whatever they were doing. I don't know what they were thinking, but they weren't concentrating on what was happening. And I truly believe that there's a reason for that, because you can only have the headspace when it's required. You've got to be able to flick it on, you've got to be able to flick it off. And when it's not required, when there's absolutely nothing you can do about your shot, because you're not playing your shot, you need to take your head away. You need to sit back and just relax and just say, yeah, nothing happening here. It's nothing, it's just a game. Yeah, it's fine. And then when it's time to play your shot, because you can't do anything about what the opponent's doing, so you've just got to remove yourself. They were masters at this. They were just looking around and just having a little joke and a little chat together and just relaxed. Now, didn't matter to them whether they won or whether they lost. It was just a very big observation of me. I panned around my camera a couple of times just so that I could see them just doing this, just totally being in the moment, but out of the moment. And then once it was time for them to play their shot, they were straight back in there. So this is some of my thoughts on the Kerlouan 2025. If you like some of these things, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, smash that notification bell with our big old arrow, and that will tell you anytime that I'm uploading new videos. I'm off to France again this weekend, and then I've got more competitions that I'm going to be witnessing and also filming. If you want me to film in your town, send me a message, drop a comment here, say, come to Carcassonne, come to Provence, come wherever it is, I'll see what I can do. I hope you've enjoyed this, hope it's provided value.